Live from Fort Worth, Texas, we welcome race fans one and all to another presentation of the iRacing Stock Car Association ButtKicker Cup Series. And tonight, we welcome you to the Texas Motor Speedway for the Applebee's All-Star Race. My name is Nolan Rempel. I've got Alfonso Nixon beside me in the broadcast booth with Rob Melnick down behind the cameras for tonight's presentation. 167 laps. This race to be run like any other points race. The one big difference, though, it's fixed setups tonight, which means all of these drivers, unlike normal, Al, they're all going to be on the same car.
Yeah, but the question is going to be, are they going to be on the same page, Nolan? Because although they're going to be on that same fixed setup, it's going to be interesting to see. That's my catchphrase. If these guys run the same lines in the same times. But hey, I can't wait, and I know you're excited about it also.
167 laps for 250 miles. You know that it's going to be one of the longer races on the season, but no doubt won't be nearly as long as that 600-mile race that was hosted for the ISCA 600 just this past weekend. That was a race that truly was about endurance, both on and off the track. Well, today it'll be a little bit shorter, and we get set to go and see what these 20 drivers will be able to make for us around this 1.5-mile speedway.
Yeah, and you know, if this race is anything like that race that we did witness on Sunday, I think we should be in for some exciting races. This Texas Motor Speedway is proven to be really fast and really loose here under this fixed setup, so hopefully today's conditions will make it just as exciting.
So far, 13 drivers have all set times for us here tonight. Only one of those drivers is so far outside the 30-second bracket. That is none other than Clayton Hoffman with a 29.853. How about Jeffrey Souza with a 30-second flat time? So Souza is definitely on it so far today, and I have to say, more than being on pole, I think it's more impressive that he managed to get a 30.000 on the timing boards.
Yeah, absolutely. He had that thing dialed in. And those are some blistering times, so hopefully these guys will be able to keep that pace up here throughout the race as we get ready to take this thing green.
Qualifying is complete. Let's take a quick step away. We'll be back in just a moment with your ButtKicker starting grid.
The night time is the right time. Remember what I told all my drivers? Reach up there and pull those belts tight one more time. Drivers, start your engines!
Clayton Hoffman is out there on pole position for tonight's Applebee's All-Star Race for Texas Motor Speedway. Jeffrey Souza lines up beside him, a tenth and a half down on the front row. Mark Sanchez is going to be down in third with Matt DiCiani in fourth. You've got Josh Schaffner rounding out the top five with Brandon Pasalacqua down in sixth. Andrew Grisbaum is in seventh with Wayne Grossi in eighth. James Oxford is in ninth. And Al, it's Chris Johnson rounding out the top 10.
Hey, that's going to put Kenny Powell in that 11th place with John Mullen securing 12th. Randy Drumhiller secures 13th with Mark Paget in 14th. Greg Wachinski's your 15th place driver with Al Koslowski alongside in 16th. Paula Ocean's got that 17th spot with Kendall LeBron in 18th. Robert Pattengale 19th with Warren Young rounding out our 20-car field here for this Applebee's 250.
13 drivers set times over the course of that qualifying session. 14th on back. Well, they were decided by their I rating entering tonight's race, so you know that means we're going to be in for some pretty interesting racing here tonight. Obviously, we've got Clayton Hoffman making another start in the ISCA this season on pole position. And I'm curious to see what Souza is going to be able to do from that outside row. He was talking to me earlier before this race, and he was mentioning that he was having a bit of a heck of a time trying to keep that car under control. He is not a fan of the iRacing base line setup, but hey, fan of it or not, he clearly knows how to handle it because he's up there on the front row.
And, you know, I think there's probably not a lot of guys that are going to be a fan of this fixed setup, Nolan, because there's not a whole lot that you can adjust outside of your brake bias and maybe your steering offset. Really, you're just along for the ride. And these cars, yeah, they're kind of tricky enough as it is at this track. So I think with that coupled with the fact that the track conditions are going to change as the sun sets, it's going to make it for a very, very interesting race here today.
Field is starting to roll for tonight's 167-lap race. 2 stages on the course of the night, as always. Stage breaks will be at laps 35 and 70. And, of course, as always, you got 6 tire sets that you are allowed to use over the course of the night. That's 5, plus the one that you start the race on. This is, of course, the 10th race now in the ISCA ButtKicker Cup Series for the second season of 2022. So we are getting closer and closer towards the ending of this season, which means the points battle is more crucial than ever. We'll get into all of that under probably one of our stage breaks, to be completely frank. But for now, we get set to come around through turns 3 and 4. We'll see what these 20 drivers will be able to make for us for tonight's Applebee's Bar and Grill All-Star Race. The iRacing safety car in turn number 4 now. We want to thank all of our viewers at home and possibly abroad for taking the time to join us on this beautiful Thursday evening as we get set to go racing down south over in Texas. Pace cars down to the end. That leaves it in the hands of one Clayton Hoffman to take us to the green flag. Souza backing up the field. Sanchez is trying to anticipate it, but he has to wait for the iRacing green. The field bunches up in the back, but we're green flag racing nonetheless.
Yeah, not sure what happened there on that start there. Looked like everybody was having a hard time trying to get situated. But now looks like we are off and running, and Clayton Hoffman, like you said, he's wasting no time getting that Toyota Camry number 92 out front in that clean air, Nolan.
The field single filed out from 10th on back, diving down in towards turn number 4 for the first time today. Clayton Hoffman will take the first lap to the green flag, and now the field single filed out all the way up and down throughout the field. A clean start so far in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what these guys are going to really need to do. This first stage should be primarily about gathering data. That's going to be that fuel data and that tire data. You know, you might want to push it a little hard, but there's no sense in tearing up your car. Do you agree?
One driver that has not had the good start to his race at all, Al Koslowski. He finds himself now towards the tail end of the field after he had to make a start down from pit road. So the 88 car will be having to work a little bit to get that car back up into points paying contention, but he's not the only one. There is the 20th place car. Greg Wachinski, he has not made a start. He did not set a lap in qualifying. He was set to start 15th, but he has not rejoined the track so far. So if Wachinski joins in now, he'll be 3 laps down, and that gap is only going to continue to grow every single lap. So if Wachinski wants to stay in this race, he needs to get back on this track, and quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Not sure if he's having technical difficulties or what the case is. But Keselowski, you know, the good thing about it is if he maintains his pace and can work it out, I mean, worst case scenario, he goes a lap down, but he should be able to pick that up at the stage break.
You can see the 0-2 car, the Caterpillar Chevrolet, one car into the grass. You see the tire treads. Andrew Grisbaum rejoining the circuit after hopping across the Legends Oval in the infield, taking a big ride out of turn number 4. Broke that back end loose, but wrestled it under control beautifully. And I'm more surprised, though, that he held on to the car when it was bouncing along throughout the infield. He had to leap over the Legends Oval, not once, but twice, or a couple of times. He didn't have any wheels on the ground.
Yee-hoo! He's flying through the air like the Duke boys.
So Grisbaum now having to fend off the likes of Randy Drumhiller and Warren Young, who are really start to hound his back bumper as we enter lap number 6. This is now the fight for 13th place. Young is in 15th, Drumhiller 14th, Grisbaum up there in unlucky number 13. A bit of tire smoke up the road. That was from Wayne Grossi. He got a little bit sideways out of turn number 2, lost the spot to John Mullins as well as Kendall Levrod.
And Nolan, the thing that I find interesting is we are actually starting to pick up quite a bit of separation on the track here. You know, you got the 2 lead cars that are actually up front, the 92 and the 14, but after that now, this field is literally starting to spread out.
Up the road, Brandon Pasalacqua looking to the inside line on Matt DiCiani, the 23 ISCA Chevrolet. Going to take the top 5 away from DiCiani in turn numbers 3 and 4. And that means that the Elite Fanatec number 1 will have to settle in to line here. He is also being pressured by Chris Johnson and Mark Padgett right behind him. Got to be careful. Exit of turn 2, it's easy to get loose. DiCiani broke the back end out again. And that will allow Chris Johnson to attack down the back straightaway and entering turn number 3. Mark Padgett will capitalize as well as DiCiani falls to 8th.
Yeah, and that's the bad thing about these cars. Once they get loose like that and you get up on that high line, it's really going to be a lot easier to open that door, like you said, and allow those guys to kind of drive right by you. But now you see he's actually got his car back together and he's going to fall back in line and try to maintain and stay up on that lead draft.
So all the while, your top 2 have really started to break away in a big way. Clayton Hoppin and Jeffrey Souza are now both just over 2 seconds clear of Mark Sanchez in 3rd, who's also in a bit of a scrap at the moment with Josh Schaffner and Pasalacqua for 4th and 5th place. So there is your 3rd place driver, Mark Sanchez, still doing a good job to keep it out in front of this thing, but still got Souza and Hoffman. They're not close by a stretch of the means to the top 2, but they have broken away a significant gap to everybody else, which really does make you wonder what the heck they know about the setup that everybody else might be missing.
You know, and a lot of it is going to have to do with line, so you can best believe that number 14 car is going to stay right there and try to follow the lead of that 92 car as long as he can, because these guys obviously are running at a pace a little faster. But Mark Sanchez can't be too happy with Josh Schaffner, because Schaffner now is going to be trying to make the move on him on the inside, and he's going to now go ahead and wrestle away that 3rd position. But just like that, here comes that 23 car as well. So Sanchez is going to find himself losing a couple positions here as he kind of got stuck on that high side.
That's the thing about Texas Motor Speedway. It's not so much of a multi-groove racetrack as it used to be. The bottom lane, definitely where you want to be if you want to make moves around this place. If you can get up the inside in turns 1 and 2, they're going to drop like a rock in 3 and 4. 1 and 2, you have a chance at defending against the outside line, but you have to get cleared by the back straightaway because you cannot fight back along the outside line in 3 and 4. It just does not work. That's why these drivers are pinning it to the bottom that much. They do not want to get shuffled out of line, because then we see what we've been seeing so far all night long. Drivers get muscled out, and they get shuffled straight back to the rear of the field. We saw it happen to guys like Grossi, and no doubt we're going to continue to see it happen to guys like others, like particularly potentially Souza here, or even Schaffner, if Pasalacqua can get to his inside. Want to keep it on the bottom. You go up to the top, you're falling back.
And that is definitely not what you want to do. Got that 5 car of Greg Wachowski. He is on the field, but he is being shown some 10 laps down now, and we've only got 14 laps in this thing, so he's definitely going to have to just keep riding along if he wants to at least make up points at the end of this thing, just collect points at the end of this thing.
We're already almost halfway through stage number 1. We're going to have 20 laps to go in the opening stage of the night. This time by at the line, the gap between first and second and then third on back has now extended to almost 4 seconds for the time being. So you know that that's only going to continue to grow. Looks like this will be a 2-horse race between Hoffman and Souza when it gets down towards the final stages in this race. There you can see your top 2 breaking away from the field, and there for comparison is the battle just in behind between DeCiani and John Mullins. That's for 9th and 8th with just traded in hands this time by out of turn 4.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is as the evening begins to transcend, these guys are only in stage 1. So as we can see the separation that we're getting on this field, that's just telling us that lap traffic is definitely going to play a significant factor in this race. In the 92 and the 14 now, they're doing great because that 92 car, he is in the clean air, and we know from experience these cars perform very different in clean air versus they do that dirty air. So once they start to catch up with lap traffic, then we'll see how that's going to affect their lap times.
Souza so far hasn't really been able to close out to the back of Clayton Hoffman. I wonder if he's actually trying, though, or if he's more just opting to tuck it in line and save his stuff for later on in the run. Of course, that's something we've seen time and time again with a lot of drivers, right? They have not wanted to use up all of their energy early on. They are more than content to just sit behind, wait a little bit, and you let the other guys in front of you burn up all of their stuff by having them try to use their energy up by staying up in front of you. It's a very, very good strategy, especially on these short sprints in the stages, but that is going to be very, very crucial when it gets down to pit strategies in that third and final stage on the night.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct, but with the inability to make any drastic changes to the car, the drivers are ultimately going to have to change their driving style, because usually if you have a race that starts like this one kind of in the afternoon and it goes into the evening, you would be contemplating changes, especially for that third and final stage. But here, no, I don't think you're just going to have, those tools at your disposal.
No, you're not going to. You cannot do anything nowadays when it comes to the fixed setups on iRacing. You can't even change the tire pressures. What you have is what you're stuck with. So you really do have to alter your driving style to fit this car. Now, I will say, that's not necessarily the best thing when it comes to cars like these. That worked out beautifully in cars like the Gen 6, right? It works out in cars like the Indy car and so on and so forth. The list goes on and on. But these Gen 7 cars, they are very much suited to one driving style when it comes to fixed setup racing. And I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't hot lapping. You got to be very, very conservative. For some drivers that like to push all out, they are going to get punished big time for it. I've seen it time and time again where drivers have not been able to get themselves properly adjusted to the car, and they have just dropped off the face of the earth when it comes to performance charts.
And, as these tires wear here also, I think it's going to be interesting to see if we have cars that are involved in single car spins, because, when this thing gets loose on you, she hooks back to the right. I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but so far, so good. Although these are some of the more talented drivers that you can find on the iRacing service. Chris Johnson currently fighting that out with Mark Padgett. He's washing up the banking in turn number 2 there. And that's not a good sign when your opponent blinks out of existence, but he jumps back in to just at the nick of time. Mark Sanchez looks to maybe get by Johnson for 6th, but Padgett has held on to 5th for a little bit longer.
Yeah, like right now, these guys are literally just riding along, and they're trying to save their tires because, that first stage, although it's only 35 laps, this is going to be the best opportunity you get to actually see how your car is going to actually hold up. And so I believe probably to the later end of this stage, with maybe 10 to go or so, we'll actually see guys start to put the hammer down, maybe push these things a little bit harder than they are right now.
And even further down the road, this is Kenny Powell currently running second in a pack of three. You've got John Mullins, Powell, and then Kendall LeBron. That's the fight for 9th, 10th, and 11th. So this is for the last points scoring positions that you got in stage number one. Right ahead of them is Mac DeCiani, who so far they've been trying to catch up to. And sometimes they gain a couple hundredths a lap, sometimes they lose a couple hundredths a lap. It really kind of depends, but I think so far DeCiani is going to have more than enough time to just hang on and let this thing ride out.
Yeah, what else could you ask for, in stage one? Just try to keep the car in one piece, collect as much data as you can, and if you're fortunate, try to fight up to get yourself into the top 10 to grab some of those very, very valuable and elusive stage points, Nolan, because as I was corrected earlier today, it seems that the only way you can grab those points is at the conclusion of those first two stages, and you're actually ending position at the end of the race.
Chris Johnson just traded hands with Mark Sanchez for 6th place. Johnson's going to try to fight back down the back straightaway this time by into turn 3, but he's not going to get enough speed to be able to properly execute an overtaking attempt. So 9 laps to go at the line, and so far Chris Johnson still doing a good job to try to just reel in the likes of Mark Sanchez. Want to give a quick update on one of the drivers that has not had the best of starts to his race. Greg Wyszynski has actually found himself now on the racetrack, but he is currently running 10 laps down. So he has got a lot of work ahead of him if he wants to get that DuPont Chevrolet into a decent point scoring position by the end of the night.
Yeah, speaking of that decent points paying position, we also had a little bit of a shuffle up there at the lead, as now it appears that 14 car secured that lead position from Clayton Hoffman. So now Jeffrey Souza now has his car out front, and we're going to see if maybe you think that's a coefficient of him saving his tires a little bit better?
I think it absolutely was. He was pressuring him for a couple of laps, but the pass came on lap 24. Souza got the upper hand on Hoffman after Hoffman got a little bit twitchy out of turn number 4. Souza executed that pass with, I believe, a possible bump and run actually in the quad oval. In the quad oval, and he completed it in turns 1 and 2.
And now he is running away with that lead. He's actually got the biggest lead that we've seen anyone have thus far this evening in this competition. And just like that, at the line, he is going to be 5 laps remaining in stage 1.
6 laps left to go as of right now. It'll be 5 to go next time by in this field, but that is still more than enough time for him to slip up and make a potential mistake. But so far, they have nothing to worry about behind. He's got 1.7 seconds between himself and Hoffman last time by at the line, and it's another 3 back to the likes of Josh Schaffner, who is still trying to keep Brandon Pasalakwa at bay for that 3rd position. Pasalakwa has been slowly trying to work his way up the field, but not as much as Mark Patchett has right behind him. Started 14 for the 02 Caterpillar Triad Chevrolet. He's already up to 5th.
Yeah, Josh Schaffner and Pascalacqua definitely started to get a little bit of distance between themselves and those other guys as well. So, like I said, it's interesting to see that we're actually getting this much separation, and we're actually going to even have lap cars besides Wyszynski at the end of this stage.
Of course, Souza currently working through some lap traffic at the moment. Oh, there was a bit of a bobble from Pasalakwa as we ride on board with him out of turn number 4. Step that back end out, but a little quick correction. Counter steering slightly from the number 23 car is going to set that car straight again.
Now, Al Kaslowski is definitely probably wanting to see that stage or flag wave probably more than anybody, as he now finds himself the next car that will be eligible to go a lap down. The leader, Jeff Souza, is just on a mission now, as he simply has his car on a rail. You know, he not looking like he's going to slow down now, and he'd be the only one that could keep him from putting this stage in the books there, Nolan.
Yeah, quite right. So it'll be pit road closed this time by, as we take 2 laps left to go in the opening stage of tonight's All-Star, or Applebee's All-Star race at the Texas Motor Speedway. The sun is starting to set towards the horizon. Sooner or later, those lights are going to click on.
And then not only do you have a completely different stage, you're going to have a completely different race, because these cars don't handle anything like they do at night during the daytime. So I'm imagining as that sun goes down, these cars are probably going to continue to get a little bit looser and a little bit looser.
1 lap left to go in the opening stage on the night. Jeffrey Souza still holding out in front, clutching, coasting a little bit. No need to worry at all for the number 14 car. Clayton Hoffman is right behind him, and so far he is not even close to being able to catch up to that number 14 Souza Media Ford Mustang. Jeffrey Souza exits turn number 4, and he will win stage 1 on the night.
Looks like that is going to put Clayton Hoffman coming in that second position. Josh Schaffner securing third. Brendan Pasquale, your 4th place. Mark Paget 5th. Mark Sanchez 6th. Chris Johnson 7th. Matt DeCiani is going to be in 8th, with John Mullins in 9th, and Kenny Powell rounding out your top 10 as we complete stage 1. Now we're going to take a break here and get a word from our sponsors.
Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got the Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake and some whipped cream on the top 2 straws, 1 shot, girl, I got you. Bougie like Natty in the styrofoam, squeaking in the truck bed all the way home. Some Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like.
ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at thebuttkicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Pit stops just being completed under the first stage break of the night. Souza led them down, and, well, no surprise, he will lead them off as well. We'll see if we can't dial up your stage 1 winner on the night. Jeffrey, well, I talked to you earlier this week. You said you weren't a big fan of the fixed setup that was being utilized here tonight. Now that you won a stage, though, has your thoughts changed about that at all?
Yes, definitely, and I'm happy to be talking to you guys, not in the garage destroyed. So that's a first this season. So I'm very happy, actually. The setup does start out pretty on edge, but it ends up actually coming around to how I like a setup a little bit, riding the right front. So far it's been pretty good for me.
I'm glad to see that you seem to be enjoying yourself out there. You did manage to put one of the best in the business, Clayton Hoffman, behind you. Do you reckon you'll be able to do the same for the second stage here?
We'll see. You know, Clayton's been obviously one of the best in this league the last 2 or 3 years here. So To be honest, I was talking to my teammates when I was, the last few laps that stage there, and I said I never thought in my life that I would be driving away from Clayton. So, maybe we should make fixed setups a normal here. I don't know. That would be nice, maybe. We'll see how the rest of the race goes, and then my opinion might change after a little while. But no, it's good to race with people like that, though. Clayton, he's a really good racer, and he really brings the best out of all of us trying to compete with him. So hopefully we can have a good race with him here towards the end of this race.
And of course, do you have any particular strategies in plan, being a 250-mile race as opposed to the usual 200, or is it just kind of play it all by ear?
The plan right now is to try to come out here and win stage 2. The yellow Susan Media school bus. Got a couple members on board tonight, and we're gonna try to bring her to victory lane. School bus in victory lane, black and white, maybe some guns and a cowboy hat. I'll take it. Texas is fun for me. I love the track.
Well, hopefully we'll be talking to you later on tonight as well. Thank you for joining us tonight here, Jeffrey, and we'll hopefully talk to you a little bit later down the road.
Stand forward. Thank you, guys.
That was Jeffrey Susie, your Stage 1 winner. You will notice one car in front of him. That is Greg Wachinski, still 9 laps down. He is going to be taking a wave around, though, so he will find himself just 9 down coming to the restart as opposed to 10. And lights on the pace car out this time by as we get set to go racing for Stage 2.
Yep, time to double them up. Wachinski getting that lap back, that's got to definitely feel good for him. But unfortunately, I think he's going to leave him on a little bit older tires there at Nolan. He might have to just work through that. But there are still now 2 cars that are being shown, I believe. Well, Chris Johnson is actually being scored as off the racetrack. I think he is out of the car. And that's going to put Robert Pattengale as the only car being 1 lap down.
You were absolutely correct there on that one. Pattengale and Chris Johnson are 2 of those drivers. Well, actually, sorry, Pattengale is the only driver to actually go down a lap on overall pace. Chris Johnson seems to have pulled his car into the garage. That's a bit of an interesting call. I'm not sure quite what the reason it is for that one, but Johnson will not be competing, it would seem, for the remainder of this race. The lights have clicked on over Texas Motor Speedway as we get set to go racing into the late evening here for what should be a very exciting rest of this race as the pace car gets set to pull down and in.
With Stage 1 in the books now, drivers really the only thing they could probably gather from that could utilize would be, that tire wear. And now we're going to get ready to see here as Jeffrey Souza brings us back to that starting line. He's going to take that green flag. Now it's just time to let her go.
Jeffrey Souza was not about to get away on the tree, according to Clayton Hoffman, who rips it around the outside line, going almost 10 miles an hour faster. And it is going to be the Reaper Speed Labs Legacy yes, it is a Camry, excuse me, to get himself pulled around the outside line. I've been doing a little bit of stock car Brazil racing, so I'm so used to saying a Corolla nowadays.
Yeah, but I guess when that Mustang catches up, I can't say that. Even though I'm a Ford fan, I'm going to just hold off on my comment on that. But Nolan, speaking of that, do you have a favorite for tonight's race?
Can't say I do.
Trouble with turn 1. We got a car into the wall. That's going to be a single car spin. Looks like he just lost it right there and hooked right up into the wall. Hopefully that 0-0 car will be the only car involved in that. Let's take a look and see what happened.
There were 2 separate spins, so we'll get a look at both of them with time. We'll start with Kendall Levron here as he loses it by himself, clips the apron, and that thing shoots hard, right? He does get some help by Kenny Powell, but that is about the worst angle you can hit the wall at. That is almost certainly going to be the end of Levron's race right there. Somehow nobody else hits him. The other driver to go around in this mess, I believe, was Warren Young, and in fact, it was. I think was caught off guard by the smoke, as was James Oxford, who also got a bit sideways underneath him. But Warren Young did not have quite nearly as violent of an incident as Levron did. We're taking a look at this replay here, and he's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to clip the apron and head towards the wall.
Yeah, we had multiple cars that were actually spinning there, and that is definitely going to be a byproduct of cold tires. The track temperature is changing, the sun's going down, the lights are coming on. You got a lot of things that just happened, and you done run 35 laps on those original tires. So, yeah, cold tires and old tires, a lot of the similar characteristics. Looks like Kenny Powell took a big chunk out of the back of that double zero, so hopefully we're going to have to see how that's going to affect the rest of his evening as well.
There you can see Kenny Powell, who did not get out of that wreck unscathed. He hit the back of LeBron as he was shooting up the racetrack, and that is a great look at the damage on the front of the number 24 Toyota Camry for Gas and Go Racing. So Kenny Powell is going to be no doubt hurting from that wreck, and I can almost guarantee you right there, Al, that's going to be enough to really impact his performance.
Yeah, but you know what? There's one person that'd love to see that caution come out, because that means that Robert Pattingill is going to get that waiver round. So now he finds himself back up on that lead lap. Now, Kenny Powell, unfortunately, is probably going to have to go down the pit road and get his pit crew busy, because this is one of those tracks where you need every pony you can get. You cannot run this race with a damaged motor.
You most certainly cannot, and it's going to be one of those races that is going to hurt you. The good news is it's not the hottest out there at the moment. It's only 76 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, so at least your car is not going to overheat too quickly, with it being 81 degrees Fahrenheit down on the racetrack. But it's still going to help those temperatures climb up and up. And how many times have we seen this in the past, right, where drivers with even a little bit of front-end damage end up blowing up about 50 laps later?
Yeah, I know that's just not what that camp needs at all. I know Powell hadn't been racing as consistently as he wanted to be, so he probably was wanting to get out there and turn as many laps as he could tonight. But I don't think that's the last of the cautions that we're going to see, Nolan, because there's a lot of things that are changing, but there's one thing they can't. That's the drivers can't change the car. And I'm probably going to say that at least maybe 2 more times, because that's going to be a very big factor as the night continues on here at Texas Motor Speedway.
Lights are still on aboard the iRacing safety car, and I think now that we've got a little bit of a break here, we can actually look into how the championship standings are shaken up in this race, considering we are, well, actually, believe it or not, only 2 races away after tonight from the very end of the season. You've got the 200-lap race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway next week, where you'll have stage race at 30, 60, and 120. So that'll be an extra long race at Charlotte, which I'm sure a lot of these drivers are just looking forward to after going through a 600-mile race at the same place just last week. And obviously, you've got Worldwide Technology Raceway to round out the season. Taking a look at the championship standings, though, as I mentioned, coming into this race, DeCiani still in the points lead, but Josh Schaffner only 19 points out. And with DeCiani quite a ways back in this field, it might be a bit of a challenge for DeCiani to come away with the net gain on points here. You got Josh Schaffner running up there in third. He wants to reel that gap in. This could be one of the closest points battles we've seen in quite a few seasons here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, DeCiani is a while back, a ways back, and Schaffner has been running up front. So the interesting thing is they both are just going to have to try to keep those cars out of trouble. Just like those last, we had 3 cars spinning on that last caution that would have, either one of those incidents could have brought the flag out. So now the next thing is going to be is how well can you dodge those cars that are going to be spinning around like that, because, we know we're going to see that again. We hope we don't. We hope we can get back up and go green flag racing again. But yeah, sometimes these things are just indicative for the conditions that we're racing in.
Everybody's doubled up. We're set to go back green flag racing. Once again for the Applebee's All-Star Race at the Texas Motor Speedway. Hoffman, Souza, Schaffner, Paget, Pasalacqua, Mullins. Round out your top 3 rows as we get set to come once again around for the green flag. This time it's Souza on the outside line. We'll see if he can anticipate Hoffman's start.
Yeah, definitely. I think Clayton Hoffman got a very good launch from that outside line last time. We'll see if Souza can return the favor as well. He's bringing him to the line, and now Hoffman takes off. He definitely got Souza sleeping on that. Schaffner's going to even make his way around on the inside there. He secures that second position. So now we are green flag racing, and Clayton Hoffman really showing a very, very strong launch there, Nolan, on both of those last two restarts.
Jeffrey Souza down to third, being pressured by Padger for fourth, but Pasalacqua wants to make his move as well and push himself a little bit further up, but Brandon Pasalacqua is actually going to back off and let Padger in line. That allows him the opportunity to charge. After the 14 Souza Media Mustang, you've got Josh Schaffner right in front of him, trying to chop the nose as Schaffner tries to hang on to second place. Schaffner sideways, and he's into the outside wall. This could be the big one. 2, 3 cars involved, and they're still slamming in. Make it 7. Caution is out again.
And you were just saying that Josh Schaffner was finding himself to be in a great position. The only thing I think that worked out in his benefit now is if he were actually able to catch DeCiani in that crash.
That is a very, very huge break for Matt DeCiani, or is it? Because DeCiani also collected in that wreck. It's going to be a question of how much damage did Matt DeCiani get from that wreck. You can see there Schaffner slamming to the outside wall, and everybody just flies off the corner completely unsighted. We'll get a second look at it this time on board, and the first car to get hit in all of that was Brandon Pasalacqua. John Mullins got clipped. I believe Kenny Powell got a piece of that as well, though he may have just escaped it. In fact, he did not. Also involved, you've got Randy Drumhiller, who got into it big time. He slammed into the inside wall. I believe you had Warren Young get some damage. Oxford was in it. I want to get a look on board, though, from Matt DeCiani. He almost had that thing miss, which would have been the biggest break of his season so far, at least the second half here in his bid to try to hold on to the points lead. And he finds himself with a good bunch damage as he got pinned into the inside wall.
Yeah, you had just said, you called it out. You showed us the way, and then we see the errors of our ways. Is that could have potentially been one of the biggest crashes that we are going to see here this evening. And I think it's just what it was. Josh Schaffner got a little bit loose, and that caused, right there, nowhere to go. Well, not a lot of damage for DeCiani, though. He should actually be able to get that fixed and get back out there. He definitely came out a lot better than Schaffner did. That is.
Yeah, he sure tried, and you'll see he goes all the way to the bottom. At this point, he's committed, nowhere to go, and Mullins just... you can't blame Mullins for that, really, right? Because he's already moving down low himself. He's just trying to stay out of everybody's way, which is completely fair, especially in a wreck like that. You want to get down and out of everybody's way, because he was sitting in the middle of the racetrack, and you still had cars flying up on him. I don't think he expected anybody to be that far down the racetrack, so I'm pretty sure he just didn't see DeCiani coming.
Yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate set of circumstances for all involved. But, hey, it just goes back to Schaffner got a little bit loose, and we saw that car hooker right back to the right. And at that point, he was along for the ride, and everybody coming. Sometimes it's just going to boil down to how well you avoid the wreck, Nolan. And, guys not having a whole lot of places to go. They're doing the best they could. Unfortunately, I think we just tow up, what do you say, I believe at least 7 cars on that last one?
I think the total count will end up being about 5 or so. So definitely not as bad as it could have been, but I think a lot worse than a lot of drivers were hoping for that are now going to find themselves out of the race tonight. And for Josh Schaffner, I was correct. Out of the race, he's pulled it to the garage. Randy Drumhiller also out of this race. Mullins, he's out of the race as well. DeCiani, though, he sees the opportunity to get himself some extra points here with this. He's going to be back on track and trying to see what he can make out of this race.
Yeah, I believe DeCiani is currently being shown in 13th position, so he's going to at least have to make up 3 positions in order to gain some points here, because he would actually have to capture that at the end of stage 2. And other than that, it's just going to be how many points he catches based on his ending finish position. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we could get the opportunity to even talk to Matt a little bit here before we go green, just get his opinion on everything.
Yeah, skin it up.
Well, Matt, it didn't quite go the way you were expecting it to, but now your main points rival is out of the race. This is a good opportunity for you, no doubt, to try to extend that points lead. Why don't you walk us through how your race is going to develop from this tonight?
Yeah, now just survive. I've not had a good race so far. I hit the wall on stage 1 all by myself, then locked it up, got into John there. So, I don't know, it's just survival now at this point.
And do you reckon you'll be able to at least come away with a few extra stage points potentially here with a few laps left to go in the second stage?
We'll have to see. I don't know. I took damage on both left and right front here, so I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Maybe if a couple of cars in front of me are damaged, maybe I can pick up some.
Well, best of luck. Hopefully we'll talk to you again later tomorrow or later tonight.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Well, there you have it. Survival's the game.
Yeah, and if you look at those guys that are being shown right in front of him, you know, he might not fare too well. We got Koslowski. We know Powell's damaged, but we got Olsen and Pattingill who have both been off the pace along with Warren Young. So, you know, it's anybody's race at this point. He just has to, like he said, he has to keep that car clean, keep his head out of the clouds, and maybe he can get that thing closer to the top 10. Lights are off on the pace car. We'll double it up. We'll get ready to go back to racing here. Stage 2, completely different than stage 1, Nolan.
Field is doubled up. And now we get set to see how we go racing for the remaining portion of this stage number 2 on the night, which comes to a close at lap number 70. Less than 20 laps to go. Hoffman takes match green this time. Souza anticipated the jump, cuts down to the inside, does not even give Patrick the light of day to get his head in on the inside.
Yeah, he's got to be relieved not having Josh Hoffman in front of him. But you got to understand that Clayton Hoffman had one thing on his mind in the previous 3 restarts. That's getting the quick launch and trying to get that car out in front where the good areas. That's his best chance of keeping Souza off of him, and that's exactly what he's doing.
You can see Wayne Grossi trying to fend off Andrew Grisbaum and Warren Young right behind. Young collected in that latest incident, but appears the damage to Warren Young was minimal despite taking a face full of Josh Schaffner's number 50 Plenish machine. And the Bud Light Chevrolet working the top lane out of turn number 4 and down onto the front straightaway. The 78 Purina Mustang looking strong as he tries to see if he can't take another position away from the likes of Wayne Grossi in his Pennzoil Chevrolet right up the road.
Yeah, it looks like Mr. DeCiani has his hands full as Al Koslowski is definitely going to be riding in his rearview mirror, giving him as much competition as he probably would stand right about now. And I know all he's thinking is right now he's secured that 10th place position. If he can just keep that car out of harm's way and maintain his current pace, he could actually gain 1 point. It's not a lot, but it does add up.
Oh, Warren Young hits the outside wall again out of turn number 2. Open up the door for Powell as well as Pasalakwa to go to the inside line. And Warren Young doing a good job to manage that damage. He's going to find himself losing some speed, but he is still staying strong on that outside lane. But this gives Matt DeCiani exactly what he needed. One more spot and 1 more point throughout the opening stage. Or the second stage, I should say, on the night.
Yeah, that pass might not be complete just yet, as he's still going to have to battle for it. But, you know, he is going to do just that because he understands the value of those points, just like he discussed with you in that earlier test when you were talking to him. It's interesting to see, though, even though a lot of these cars are damaged, there's not a lot of fall off so far with these guys from the leader.
And now you can see the field still lining it up single file, though that's not going to stop Warren Young from having his moments out of turn number 2. I think he's really hurt that car. He was kind of wobbling all the way through turn 2. He almost lost it on the back straightaway right behind him. You see how that scared Al Kozlowski into losing one spot. James Oxford sweeps through with Greg Wyszynski, still 8 laps down, and now finds himself promoted into the lucky dog spot. This is actually a dream situation for Wyszynski, right? Because the few drivers that were laps down ahead of him have gotten their laps back, and the others that were involved in wrecks, they've all retired. So Wyszynski is now in the lucky dog seat. He just got to hope that nobody else goes a lap down to bump him out of it.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, that battle, I think, is going to start heating up for the lead here, because we're at that point in the stage where Jeffrey Sousa is actually a little bit faster. This is where he's actually going to start to put that pressure on Clayton Hoffman, just like he did in the previous stage. So Clayton tried to get a run. He tried to get some separation there, but just like the previous, here he comes. He's getting reeled right back in, and that's probably going to give us the best battle that we got going on right now on the track.
And all of this still with over 100 laps left to go as well in the Applebee's All-Star race from the Texas Motor Speedway. You've got Hoffman first, Sousa second, Paget third, still sitting in the top 3. But this time, Paget has managed to find out exactly what it was that Sousa and Hoffman were doing with this fixed setup, and he is now linked onto the tail end of the top 2, making it to the 3-horse race. Remember, Paget started all the way down in 14th. He was the first driver that did not set a qualifying lap. He found himself up into the top 5 already by just the end of stage 1. He had a few struggles since then, but now he finds himself easily running up in the top 3 with the potential for a race win even.
Isn't that awesome? And just like that, here we also have Kenny Powell giving Andrew Griesbaum all that he could handle for that 7th position. Powell now is going to go ahead and slide by him on the inside. That's going to go ahead and secure him in .6. And look right there who's coming up in his rearview mirror now. It is your points leader, Mr. DeCiani, who's also going to try to take advantage of Griesbaum's misfortune and go ahead and try to get himself another point.
And behind them, DeCiani, Griesbaum, and Powell continue to duke it out amongst themselves for 7th, 8th, and 9th place. Now, Kenny Powell is +4 on the night. Griesbaum's lost 1 spot, though. DeCiani, well, he started 4th. He's down to 9th. He's lost 5 spots so far. So he has not had the best night at all. We talked about DeCiani was having a good run, found himself collected, though, in that crash. That really big crash, as a matter of fact. But the good news is, even with that damage here, Al, he has already found himself moving up further than he actually was before he got collected in that mess.
Yeah, that's got to make him feel good knowing that that car actually is beat up on both sides, but he is still actually being able to be competitive. You know, when he started this thing, he was in 13th place, not looking like he was actually going to get any of the favors from the stage points, but here he is right now, potentially even able to, he has to potentially even get up to even 8th place.
Griesbaum's looking low. Kenny Powell taking a wider arcing corner into turns 3 and 4, trying to hang on. 5 laps left to go in stage number 2 before we get set to race this thing out for the remaining 80 to 85 or so laps at the end of stage number 3. Usually these stages will get you around halfway. Same story here tonight, but it is going to be an extra long fuel stint for these drivers, right? They're going to be going about 52 laps on the fuel at the Texas Motor Speedway here, which means we probably won't be seeing some guys pitting until well after lap 110.
That's going to make it interesting, because I think my only question would be, how are their tires going to hold up? You know, that we haven't really been able to determine what tire wear has been so far. It's interesting, though, that all of these guys are running the same setup, yet they're running so many different lines and so many different times. I wonder if there's any way that we could actually ride that with Brandon Pasquale. He was actually fastest on that last lap. So I think maybe if we could actually, well, Clayton Hoffman. If we could ride with Clayton Hoffman a little bit, let's kind of get an idea of what he's doing inside his cockpit.
You can see him taking, once again, that wider arcing line, which is what you got to do at a track like this. Enter high, exit low. That's what the speed's at. There you saw a little bit of a twitch with the wheel. Pit road is now closed, this time by. We now find ourselves getting further and further set towards the end of this stage as we come to a close on lap number 70. Hoffman still hanging on in his number 92 Toyota Camry. Question is, will he be able to hang on for the stage win?
Now, Clayton's doing two different things there. Number one, he's shifting, which is a very interesting point when he goes into 1 and 2. But it looks like he's actually clutching a little bit as well as you see those RPMs start to go up like that. So, not sure exactly it's working. That's what he's doing. But so we're seeing he is actually having to utilize every bit of that car in order to get the most out of it.
Back straightaway for the final time. Souza's got nothing for him. Clayton Hoffman brings his number 92 Reaper Speedlabs Camry around. And Hoffman will win stage 2 on the night. Al Kozlowski fighting it out for the final points paying position. He's side by side with James Oxford out of the final corner. Oxford loses control, and Oxford spins into the outside wall. Caution flag flies anyway. But what a run for Oxford, as that's almost certainly going to end his race, and all for just 1 point.
You know, that is a very, very unfortunate event for him because, I mean, if he just pedals that thing and just, you know, he can race the rest of the race, but instead he doesn't even finish the stage, and now he's out of the race.
That is so unfortunate for James Oxford, who now finds himself, as I mentioned, out of the race, and just a simple mistake, completely unforced error. That's got to hurt, knowing that you could have just backed off and you would have been fine, but now he finds himself fully out of the race.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta, you know, live to fight another day, or I guess live to fight or race another way, I guess. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But let's go ahead and step away and get a word from our sponsors here as we continue coverage of the Applebee's 250.
ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at TheButtKicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got that Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake and some whipped cream on the top two. 2 straws, 1 shack, girl, I got you. Bougie like Natty in the styrofoam. Squeaking in the truck bed all the way home. Some Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like.
Clayton Hoffman still finds himself out in front after yellow flag pit stops. Jeffrey Souza is still in second, and Mark Padgett still clinging on to third after he started all the way down in 14th place. We'll see if we can't dial up your Stage 2 winner on the night, and we'll get a quick word in here with Clayton Hoffman. Well, Clayton, Souza got you on the first stage, but you got him right back on the second. How's it feeling out there for you?
It's fixed setup. Fix-up's really loose the first couple of laps. If you don't, control you over that edge. So at first I was just kind of expecting a couple cautions. So I kind of went a little too hard, hurt my right front too much, and just kind of worked after Souza passed me on some strategy for the second stage, and it worked out. I had a really good restart that really set the tone, and I was able to hang on to win the stage.
It seems like those 2 yellow cars behind you definitely have it in for you. You know they both want your race lead. What do you got in mind that might help you keep them behind you?
It's really just going to come down to strategy. I mean, everybody's on the same setup. The only differences we can make are steering and brake bias. So it's really going to come down to just tire management. So it'll be interesting to see how hard they're willing to push on the short run this stage. I definitely have been leaning on pushing too hard, hurting my right front too much. So, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, it's going to be who can get the clean air without killing their right front, really.
Fingers crossed you'll be able to find yourself battling for the race win before the night is over, and hopefully we'll be talking to you once again by the time we get down to that checkered flag.
Do my best. Appreciate you guys.
Clayton Hoffman join us up here in the broadcast booth as lights are on the pace car. We go green this time by. We'll be a lap 76 of 167. 91 laps left to go when we get back to that start-finish line. So, well, now that we are out of the second stage and we're into the third and final one, you heard it from Hoffman. Strategy is going to be everything. How many people do you reckon, though, are going to be wanting to stretch that 52 lap fuel tank out to the max?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if it's going to be worth it. I believe at this stage you're going to be wanting to watch when that leader goes, and you're going to want to get in there about the same time that he does. That's going to be the best strategy because other than that, you might be shooting yourself in the foot. Now, as they get to the end of that fuel window. The tires, once again, I think are going to be an issue. And we saw just how quick that can actually jump up and bite you in the keister just by what, Mr. Oxford did.
Pace cars down and in. Clayton Hoffman going to take us back to the green flag. And as we do get set to take the green flag once again, want to ride on board some of these drivers in the middle of the field? We'll crank it up for a few laps as we go racing once again in stage 3.
And just like that, Clayton Hoffman actually loses control. If we were looking just in the lap before, he kind of bobbled it a little bit, was actually able to get it back under control. You got the perfect view, a bird's eye view of that as you were riding along with Jeffrey Souza. But then, just like that, he loses it again. Early on in these stages, when those tires are cold, you're going to have that, and that's exactly what occurred. So now, Clayton Hoffman now finds himself gone from the lead all the way back to 8th place, just like that. As this race continues, that 14 car now has got the lead, and he is going to be stretching his legs out because, well, he's in that good air, and that's exactly what he was actually saying that he needed to do. Drivers are actually starting to get in single file line. So we have 88 laps remaining in this event. let's go ahead and take our ride along with some more of these drivers.
So problems for Clayton Hoffman out of turn 4 a little while ago, and frankly, he's not the only one. You just had another driver go tearing off through the infield grass. It was none other than Greg Wyszynski, I imagine, doing a fairly carbon copy thing as to what our friend Clayton did just a little while ago, Al.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Man, it's been interesting, Nolan. I think this track condition has changed quite a bit here, and it's catching some of these drivers off guard.
You talk about the track surface changing. The temperature hasn't changed a whole lot. It is still 80%, but it's more the actual time of day, right? Your references change. I think that's what a lot of these drivers are having to realize. For example, if you try to brake at a particular shadow in the track, well, not going to really work when all the shadows are all of a sudden identical under the lights.
Yeah, absolutely. In night driving, even though the track is illuminated, it's not the same as, driving through the day, shaded tracks, parts of the track or whatever. And Clayton Hoffman, the one thing that he said he was going to try to do with the tire conservation, I think he was actually being pushed a little bit, made him a little bit uncomfortable. So his tires might not be in the best condition just because of the way that 14 was pressuring him.
And already cars are starting to get a little bit further sorted as we are now past halfway in the Applebee's All-Star race. But there's not a whole lot of cars that are actually close out there on the racetrack at the moment. The closest of the cars, I'd imagine, would actually be about for 7th through 9th. Hoffman, DeCiani, and Grisbaum. 3 cars that, coincidentally enough, aren't the cleanest looking cars out on the race circuit. I think Andrew Grisbaum is one of the cleanest cars out of anybody on the track so far, but DeCiani has still got a fair bit of front end damage from that big wreck out of turn 2 some time ago that saw Schaffner eliminated from this race. And, well, Clayton Hoffman has got a fair bit of right rear damage for when you mentioned he slapped the wall a little bit earlier.
Yeah, in Greasebaum's car, I was kind of noting a little bit earlier that his car was substantially clean, yet he still hasn't quite been able to close the gap. Then on Powell, now on DeCiani. DeCiani's car still beat up on both sides, but yet he is still putting adequate pressure on that 92 car. So that just kind of shows you exactly kind of where we're at. And I don't know if that has more to do with tire management or just, guys just trying to take it easy as Kenny Powell is locked up there with him and Wayne Grossi actually battling for that 5th spot.
You see Powell getting a bit close and personal with Wayne Grossi. Fight for 5th. Out of turn 4 down the front straightaway, rounding lap number 92. And Grossi finds the inside line. Powell tried to cover him off, couldn't get down in time, and Grossi will finish the pass on the exit of 2. I think Powell had to lift off a little bit there, or he was going to go into the outside wall.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be a good feeling for that Grossi camp to actually be able to secure that 5th place spot from Kenny Powell. If those guys can actually keep that car out front and clean like that, that could be a heck of a payday for them as far as the points are concerned.
So Powell will now try to chase down Grossi once again, but with how quick Grossi has been lately, I don't think he's going to be able to get back to him anytime soon unless he can really find something under that gas and go Camry. I do like how much we've been seeing Wayne Grossi come into his own, right? He used to be one of those drivers back in the Gen 6 car that was typically more of a mid-pack guy, maybe a little bit even further down towards the rear, right? He never really was anywhere too noteworthy, but he's been very consistently like top half of the field, sometimes top 5s, got a win earlier this season, don't you forget, and even a couple of podiums elsewhere. So he has definitely come into form with this new Gen 7 car.
Yeah, a lot of drivers definitely have got new life, if you will, with this Gen 7 car because it is fundamentally a different car altogether than the Gen 6 car. And, some guys have been actually able to flourish just like that. But this is just actually that point of the race where I think the race leader, if you will, has got his pace. He's dialed in. He's hitting his marks. If you're the other guys behind him, now you got to start thinking to yourself, Nolan, because as we're coming here with 73 to go, at some point that pit window is going to open up. So what are you thinking we're going to see? You think we're going to see group pitting, or you think guys are going to try to just kind of go out there and do it individually?
It's a bit of a tough question, that, because there's not exactly a whole lot of groups for you to pit with. So I think a lot of times you're going to more get drivers that are going to be each pitting kind of individually, but I think you're going to get the couple of guys that will come down together, right? Like, it's almost certain that the top 5 are all going to be in at around the same time. That's typically the trend that takes place as Andrew Grisbaum and Matt DeCiani get set to trade hands for 8th and 9. They are going to actually make contact for 8th and 9th in the middle of 3 and 4.
Hey, you're going to have a little rubbing at Texas. That's just the way it is, whether it be the wall or whether it be your counterparts, your fellow constituents, because this is one of those tracks like that. And I'm really kind of, I'm amazed. I guess I could only say wowed at how much of disparity we're seeing in the lap times, especially all of these drivers being on the same setup. That has got to tell you that it's got to come down to technique or something. What do you think the biggest difference is that's allowing some of these guys to drive these cars effortlessly and other guys that seem like they're just, I don't know, it's struggling?
It all comes down to driver style. Like I mentioned a little bit further in tonight's presentation, it's not really a car that favors multiple driving styles. When you're running the fixed setup, it doesn't matter what kind of a setup you run it with. This car, not going to favor the hot lappers. You always have to be very, very selective about what type of driving style you use. And unfortunately, for quite a few guys out there, it's not a driving style that tends to fit them all too well.
Yeah, well, who's not going to be feeling too well is going to be that 43 car, because unfortunately, once he gets past this time by the leader, there's no stage to save him. The only thing that would actually keep him in favor would be a caution. So now that leader is actually going to start to come up, and he will get into lap traffic, because I think we're seeing like 3 different groups of traffic. We've got guys with right cars, guys that are on the tail end of the lead lap, and then those lead lap guys that are actually just setting a blistering pace here, Nolan.
Rounding lap 100, it'll be 167 this time by at the line. Why don't we take a look top to bottom at where things sit so far in your field for the Applebee's All-Star race. Jeffrey Souza still leading the way. Mark Paget has found his way up to second place after Hoffman made his crucial error earlier on. Brandon Pasalacqua sits third with Mark Sanchez down in fourth. Wayne Grossi is in fifth with the likes of Clayton Hoffman. In sixth, you've got Kenny Powell down in seventh. Andrew Grisbaum was eighth. Matt DeCiani started fourth. He's down to ninth with damage, but still in the decent point scoring position. Al Kozlowski finishes off the top 10.
That's going to put Robert Patgill in 11th, and he is probably still on the lead laps. And the next driver is going to be Paul Olsen, who's going to be the first driver that's going to be 1 lap down, being shown in 12th place. Greg Wachinski, some 7 laps down now, being shown in 13th, with Warren Young off the track in 14th. James Oxford, John Mullins, Josh Schaffner, Randy Drumholler, Kendall LeBron, and Chris D. Johnson are all drivers that are currently not on the racing surface.
Andrew Grisbaum and Kenny Powell looking to go at it for 8th place, and look at Powell hound to the back of the Purina Mustang. Powell looks to the inside. Grisbaum is going to give him all the room in the world to work with. Powell's going to push up from the bottom just slightly. Andrew Grisbaum, though, is going to keep that thing ripping around the outside line, and he's going to do what I mentioned you got to do. Get clear by the time you get to turn number 3, because once again, if you're not back on the inside by the time you get to 3, you are going to get freight trained.
Yeah, I hear that train coming, and we see it just about every lap play it out in that same scenario, the way you explained it. So this race is continuing, and the best thing I think that we had going for us is that the fact that Clayton Hoffman had actually fallen back. Now he finds himself back in 6th place, and he's still going to be trying to close that gap to get back up front to the lead. He was actually one of the fastest cars that we had out here, but since he departed, that's allowed that 14 car to actually just really kind of run away with this thing. And he is now using that 43 car kind of as a provisional pick, if you will, and he's just finding himself to be, in clean air again.
And Clayton Hoffman is continuing to pick his way through the field as he looks to the inside to pick off Wayne Grossi, and he does just that. So Hoffman works his way up into the top 5. Behind him, there was Paul Olsen down in the pit road, so it looks like some guys now thinking about green flag pit stops, although I will say it is way too early still to be thinking about that one. If Olsen is going to be going back out on track before the end of this race, he is definitely going to have to stop at least one more time. He's going to be about 10 laps short.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to just get himself some fresh good years. Once you get to that point where you're just losing and you're not being able to handle you might as well just go ahead and go on down pit road, get yourself a set of fresh tires, and come back out and turn some more laps. So I think that's what Olsen elected to do. You can't take those tires with you at the end of this thing, Nolan.
No, you cannot. And we'll continue to see drivers trying to at least collect some of those stars before the end of this race. If not for maybe some memorabilia, who knows? Maybe they can smuggle them out under the car's hood.
I think Paul Olsen has elected to withdraw from the competition.
He indeed has. So Olsen out of the race. He'll join the likes of Young, Oxford, Schaffner, and more.
Yeah, that's going to leave us with just 12 cars out on the racing surface right now.
And 2 of them battling it out for 8th. Kenny Powell has continued to slip. Matt DeCiani wants to get 8th place back and continue to slowly but surely climb his way up through this field. He's trying to find the inside of Kenny Powell almost got him at a 3 this last time by, but Powell just had enough of a leg up in front to be able to stay out in front.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you where the battle is right now. That battle is going to be for that third position right now, as Brandon Pasquale actually has his rearview mirror full as well.
DeCiani looks high. Made the attempt. You mentioned Sanchez closing in on Passalacqua as well. Much tighter entry for the 31 car, but look at how much Passalacqua was able to pull mid-corner because he took that wider diamonding arc, and in fact, Sanchez bobbled a little bit because he had to turn so much harder along the banking just to keep that thing going straight.
Well, it's definitely got to be kudos to Mark Sanchez, a driver who is also doing well here in this ISCA Thursday night series. Because now he gets a little loose there, but as of right now, you know, he is actually was battling effectively for third place. So if you think about that, Mark Sanchez actually battling for a podium position, that's something that camp definitely would love to have as well as here, because I don't think they actually get to experience that maybe as much as they would like.
A long way left to go as well, but I can tell you right now that it's going to be an even longer race next week when we go racing back at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It feels like you just left there because you did just leave there when we went racing for the ISCA 600. But we go back there once again for a 300-mile race for 200 laps, and I'll have, as always, 3 stages. 30, 60, but interestingly enough, not one at 90, Al. How about a stage on 120? It's like the stages double every time you come across them. I've never seen that before.
Well, I think it's just going to be an exciting race. And, you know, it is similar to this track as well. So a lot of drivers, I've found that if drivers actually like the Charlotte Motor Speedway, they like Texas. Very rarely do you see a driver say, well, I hate Texas, but I love Charlotte. You know, the two kind of come hand in hand. But this track here, definitely, I do believe, the trickier of the two, because it just seems like you got to hold your mouth just the right way, Nolan, in order to get around this thing sometimes.
And of course, you've also got the Worldwide Technology Raceway for the season finale, and obviously Gateway is a track that, I've noticed there's been some kind of split feelings on it when it comes to the racing community. Some people love it, some people hate it. Where does it sit on your spectrum?
I don't. I don't know. I guess I don't like it as much.
I'm a bit divided on it. I think Indy cars can provide some really exciting racing there. Stock cars, not so much. It's a bit divided to me on that one. So it depends, I think, on what kind of a field you've got.
I think you're absolutely right. Correct. You hit the nail on the head. It depends on what type of car. The Indy cars spectacular, fun to even race on that track. These cars, just not so much. Now looking like Mark Sanchez is going to go ahead and make that move, and he is not only going to try to secure that third place position, but he now has second place locked in his sights.
We are now within that distance where you can pit and be safe to the end on fuel. There is going to be 51 laps to go, this time by at the line for your race leaders. So you know that means with a 52-lap tank, you can now pit and be good to go to the end. As Sanchez and Passalacqua continue to scrap away for fourth and third. Last lap by, Sanchez was quicker than Passalacqua by 0.4 of a second, and well, that would be how he managed to get that spot away from him over in turn number 1. I think Passalacqua's been slipping a little bit as Sanchez starting to really pull away on that gap. So I think Sanchez was saving his tires for later in the run.
Yeah, Sanchez definitely is faster of the two. Not only is he faster than Pasquale, he's actually now got Mark Paget in his sights, because he was actually some 0.2 of a second faster than Paget on that last lap.
And now 50 laps left to go in this race. Now that the pit window is open, you have to wonder how long will it be until some drivers opt to make that trip down and into the lane. We haven't been out there for 50 laps just yet. We have, though, been out there for about 40 or so. So we can expect to be seeing these guys coming in within the next 10 laps here.
Yeah, I don't know, but at this point, if your car is handling good and it's fast at this point, the last thing you want to do is get out of that rhythm and have to pit, because that's what's going to actually happen. These drivers are going to have to start getting their mental marks now for getting ready to go on pit road, because you got to get these big things slowed down. You got to get able to get down, get in your box on cue, get gas, get tires, get back out without speeding, and then try to gain time through that process. So that's what green flag pit stops are about. It's not an easy process, Nolan, and that's why I think I get so excited about it.
So strategy will obviously be 4 tires and fuel. I think the one variable that really is present time when it comes to pit strategy is when do you come in? Do you want to come in sooner, try to gap these guys with some fresh rubber, but then be under potential fire later in the run? Or do you want to wait until later and have fresher tires for the remainder of the race, but you'll have more time to make up as well because, well, you will have pitted a little bit later and you will have been on a disadvantage at some of the guys on the fresh tires. These two drivers pulling the trigger first. Pasalagua going for the overtake into pit road on Sanchez.
And there it is, just like we were talking about, and now green flag pit stops are underway. I'm interested that Flores actually came in. Sanchez came in so soon because he was actually closing in on second place. It seems like he was actually getting faster.
Tell you what, this is looking pretty good so far. Now, I think a bigger question is how the heck is this going to play out? Just about everybody is coming to pit road around the same time. There's only actually 2 drivers on track right now. Grassi is pitting right now, and Al Kozlowski, who is looking to stay out and I believe trying to lead a lap here just to get his name at the top of the scoring pile for a single lap here. So now I think this is where it's going to get really interesting. I thought they'd be a bit more split up, but nope. Let's all pit at the exact same time. Why not?
Yeah, because once everybody saw that someone was pitting just like that, everybody came down, and like you said, the only driver not electing to pit, Al Kozlowski. And Kozlowski now, Kozlowski has been one of those guys who has been known to run it all the way as long as he possibly could. Maybe hoping for a late race caution, because if a caution were to come out, it would actually be in his favor. You know what I mean? So these guys coming back out there on cold tires, everybody's got to get back up to speed and do that without making incident.
Well, now that everybody is fully out and finished off with their pit stops, I think we just have to wait on Al Kozlowski now to make his trip into the lane this time by, of which he is on the binders. He'll be coming in this time by. Souza still holds the race lead from Martin Paget. So, as Kozlowski enters pit road, why don't we take a quick step away, and we'll be back in just a few moments with the remainder of this race.
ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at TheButtKicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got that Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake and some whipped cream on the top too. Two straws, one check, girl, I got you. Bougie like Natty in the styrofoam. Squeaking in the truck bed all the way home. Some Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like.
So 20 laps left to go, and now there's only 7 cars left out there on the lead lap. Those drivers being Souza, Paget, Pasalacqua, Sanchez, Grisbaum, Grassi, and DeCiani. We've been watching the battle between Brandon Pasalacqua and Mark Sanchez, kind of fluctuating the last several laps or so. Sometimes Sanchez has been a bit quicker, sometimes though Pasalacqua has pulled one out. This lap, well, they're about even out.
Yeah, and it's actually coming down to that point now where drivers actually can see the finish line in sight as we're just coming with some 20 laps remaining in this competition. It's been a very good race. 3 stages so far. Stage 1, caution-free, except for one. Stage 2, a little bit of a caution fest. And Nolan here, Stage 3, we've been caution-free. We've already gone through our green flag pit stops. 7 drivers remaining on the lead lap, and right now it's just this is that part of the day where everybody's just waiting, you know, just hoping that the driver doesn't make any mistakes, hoping that the equipment holds up, hoping that you don't have a, you know, last minute snafu. So I guess we're just along for the ride as well.
Kind of in a bit of a holding pattern, I guess you could say, for the time being. And when you take into account that the stages, I do believe we're going to be seeing DeCiani pulling about another 10 to 15 point gap over Schaffner by the end of the night. So Matt DeCiani, while he may be a lap down, he might be damaged, but he's doing exactly what he needs to do, which is just keep that thing clean, keep it on the track, and make sure that he'll actually be there to duke it out in those final stages. Because I'll tell you what, if there's one thing you ever want entering a championship round, it's a bit of a points buffer.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be a totally disheartening situation for Josh Schaffner, especially since, you know, it was a self-spin, if you will, that kind of ended his night here tonight. You know, it's always different if it's something else that happens, Nolan, but if it's just yourself that causes yourself to lose the competition, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Pasalacqua's getting held up here by Al Kozlowski. That will allow Sanchez to close in a little bit. But because Sanchez bottled other portions of his last lap, he'll still end up losing almost a tenth of a second. There will be 15 laps to go, this time at start-finish. I tell you what, I can't remember the last time we saw Jeffrey Souza actually win an ISCA race. Do you know if he actually ever won one before?
Yeah, I'm not a statistician on that one, boss. I'd have to check.
Well, regardless, it'll be certainly something to see a different winner up there in victory lane. We haven't seen that all too often. Shane Mark Patchett, though, for all the moving up he's been doing throughout the race, has not been able to have anything for the Triad and Souza Media Mustang that has been leading the way so far in pretty much dominating fashion all night long. The only driver that's been able to rival him was Clayton Hoffman, who eliminated himself from his own devices earlier tonight. But hey, 14th is a second. That still is not a bad result at all. He has moved up the most spots out of anybody on the day so far.
Yeah, absolutely. If there were a driver of the race, I think it would definitely be that number 31 car, because he has done just that. Oh, sorry, that number 2 car. He has done just that. I'm watching the 31. He has battled all the way through this field, a feat that not even Clayton Hoffman could do. Clayton Hoffman actually found himself back to some 8th place, and then he actually withdrew from the competition because he wasn't actually able to get through. DeCiani was in 13th, you know, so he's actually been able to drag himself all the way back up to 7th. But we're talking about someone who started in 14th and is going to look like they're going to wrap this thing up in 2nd place. That's no small feat here, Nolan.
It most certainly is not. And now we will continue to watch this race slowly tick its laps away. Al Kozlowski is still running 9th place. You see him kind of splitting your battle for 3rd at the time being. Then you've still got Greg Wyszynski. Never got the cautions that he wanted to. You only actually had those 2 cautions early in stage 2, right? And other than that, it has been a completely clean race.
Yeah, you know, he really can't complain, though. He started in 20th, and it looks like he's going to finish in 11th. That's not a bad delta. You know what I mean? And it, you know, he kind of rode around here on his own terms, kind of kept his car clean. He wasn't really ever racing anybody, so, yeah, he had to make the most of his night. And that's a good testament for him as we get to 10 to go, because a lot of drivers, you know, kind of have just withdrawn for lesser reasons. What about you, Nolan? Are you the guy that's going to, are you going to keep running that thing no matter what? You going to run it till the tires fall off, or you going to just Kyle Busch it?
I never learned how to save tires, so I would definitely be one of those guys to just run until the tires fell off. I know no other way. I actually remember a C-Fixed race a couple of years ago, racing at this very track, as a matter of fact. I thought I was doing good. Then my tires fell off just 15 laps into the race because I was pushing as hard as I possibly could. You want to know what my right sides were by the time I got through the end of a 40-lap run? 7%.
Oh wow! So you didn't actually blow it out.
No, not quite, but it came close enough.
Have you actually ever had a blowout in the series?
I didn't think it was possible to have blowouts unless that's changed recently.
I've had 2.
Oh, well, there you go.
Unless they've changed it back. Yeah, you actually can receive damage from a blowout. Yeah, absolutely. Trust me, I know. But
Well,
I mean,
how about that?
I guess the more direct question is so if your car is damaged, are you more likely to keep driving it for points or parking it for you know, just because?
I'm not sure. It depends on how I'm feeling on the day. Under 10 laps to go, and the 14 car still very much out in front. There is Pasalacqua. Still struggling with a lot of lap traffic. Kenny Powell in front and Al Kozlowski behind in a bit of a G&G sandwich. But so far, Pasalacqua was having a fairly decent time out there. Is getting held up slightly, but Powell's going to wash up here, and that'll give the 23 car the space he needs to at least start to get by him down the back straightaway. And all the while, you can still see the likes of Mark Sanchez way in the back and nowhere close to being able to actually battle back for him.
Yeah, but you know what? That 31 car of Mark Sanchez is, you know, he's actually done exactly what he needed to do tonight as well. He kind of kept the car clean, you know, kept it on the lead lap. And you know, a lot of times at the end, you just have to be available. You know, there's been drivers that have backed in the victory lane. So this thing, although it's 5 to go, it's still not over. You just never know what could possibly happen out here, you know?
4 to go. It's been a relatively tame Applebee's All-Star race. I remember last year's All-Star race, and it was not nearly this. It was not nearly this calm, shall we say. There were quite a few cautions, and it was tight, door-to-door racing from start to finish. But these Gen 7 cars, they just race so differently in comparison that it's hard to really see, or it's hard to imagine almost, if there was ever a point where we could be racing like we did with those Gen 6 cars here in cars like these.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Gen 6s battle the Gen 7s here on this track. I think that would be awesome.
Do you know that at a majority of racetracks, except for super speedways, the truck that is running the C-Fix series will actually often be about half a second or more faster than the Gen 7 cars?
Yeah, you don't have to lift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought that at least he'd get some straight line speed, though, but apparently not.
That truck series has actually come a long way also. 2 to go. Looks like that number 14 car is going to have no problem putting this thing here in the books. And if that is going to be his first win, Nolan, I think, he definitely did it in a very handy fashion.
White flag this time by. This race will end on regulation time. Jeffrey Souza rounding turns 1 and 2. No one in front to worry about. No one behind to worry about. Just got to coast it through to the checkered flag, and he'll be all smooth sailing. So Jeffrey Souza in the Triad Souza Media Ford Mustang exits turn number 4, and he will win the Applebee's All-Star Race from the Texas Motor Speedway.
Well, that has definitely got to be a great win for that camp. Couldn't have been a more deserving team, as he did actually do this in handily fashion. Now, Clayton Hoffman, you know, he was the restart king, but he is not here for us tonight as that checker flag flies over Texas Motor Speedway. Well, what an event we had here, Nolan. Thank you for letting me come in and assist you on this Thursday night. And I'd like to thank the ISCA and all of our sponsors as well. Don't usually get a chance to come over here and play with you guys. But yeah, thank you for the ride along.
We'll take a look at your official post-race results at the end of the night. Jeffrey Souza, your race winner, 7, I think it may as well be 8 seconds over Mark Patchett. Brandon Pasalacqua does manage to finish up on the podium with Mark Sanchez in 4th. Andrew Grisbaum is in 5th as the last car on the lead lap. From there, Wayne Grossi is 1 down in 6th. Matt DeCiani recovers to 7th. Al Kozlowski is 8th. Kenny Powell's 9th. Robert Patgill rounds out the top 10.
That's going to put Greg Wachinski in 11th, Clayton Hoffman 12th, Paul Osen 13th, Warren Young 14th, James Oxford 15th, John Mullins in 16th, Josh Schaffner 17th, Randy Drumhiller in 18th, Kendall LeVron 19th, and Chris D. Johnson rounding out your 20-car field.
Well, that is your podium then at the end of the night. We'll take a brief step back. We'll be right with you once again for the post-race show in just a few moments.
Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got that Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake and some whipped cream on the top two. 2 straws, 1 check, girl, I got you. Bougie like Natty in the styrofoam. Squeaking in the truck bed all the way home. Some Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like.
Well, welcome back to the ICA post-race show. As you can see, one of our other top 3 finishers has elected to kind of photobomb Souza's moment down there at the start-finish line. And we'll speak to the one that's a little bit further down the racetrack and the one that's not totally in line with start-finish. Jeffrey Souza joins up in the broadcast booth. Jeffrey, we talked to you when you won Stage 1. Well, now you're here and a race winner in the ISCA.
Yeah, this is great, man. You know, I just finished school, you know, a week and a half ago, the semester, and since school's been really tough, I haven't raced much at all. I know I missed a lot of these races, so getting back into it at a place that I really love this track, and I don't know what it is about the track. It's different, and a lot of people don't like different, but hell, I really excel at these type of tracks.
And what was things like for you out there so far over the course of the night? And do you reckon it'll be even remotely similar to what we'll be seeing at Charlotte a week from now?
So, like I said earlier, the setup really started out, you know, pretty free for the first couple laps there. And you kind of had to deal with that, and you had to worry about not killing your tires early to be able to work hard on the long run. And once you got past that first 5 to 10 lap span, you kind of just got into a rhythm, and you know, I hit my marks, or tried to hit my marks every lap in turn 1 mostly. Turn 3 and 4 was pretty consistent, but 1 and 2, it was kind of tough to hit that line every single lap consistently. So once you hit that lap, I think, you pretty much, I got a gap there and just kind of took care of it. I've already taken some laps at Charlotte. It's definitely going to be similar in a way, but a lot tougher in another way. A lot more off throttle time there. And with how the high banking goes flat on the straightaway, the car does want to get light coming off the turn. So I think we're going to see a lot of issues there coming off of 4, coming off of 2. But I'm looking forward to getting out there and racing.
And well, before I let you go, then here, Jeffrey, anybody you'd like to shout out for that Susan Media number 14?
Yeah, obviously I want to shout out to Susan Media. Without them supplying funds every week for not just me but the whole team at Triad, we wouldn't really be able to get the sessions up going how we need to. So big thanks to them, big thanks to everyone at Triad. I got Mark over there. It's nice that we ended up with another 1-2 here. Seems like we have to get a couple of these per season, no matter who wins. We always got to be up here. Everyone over there, Brandon Pierce, my spotter, and most of the leagues that I run in, does a good job helping with the fuel and just keeping me calm. And I want to give a big shout out to Clayton. I wish we could have had a good race there. I think we would have had a hell of a battle up front there for the lead, but he had his issues. So I'm hoping I can have a good race with him next week at Charlotte and give this Souza bus another good run next week.
I was Jeffrey Souza, your race winner from the Applebee's All-Star race from the Texas Motor Speedway. We'll hopefully be talking to you again in a week.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
And with that, we're going to move on down to our second place finisher, Mark Patchett, the driver that moved the most around the field so far this race. Al, you're standing by with our runner-up.
Hey, Mark Patchett, this is Big Al up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Man, what a performance that you put down today. You started in 14th, battled your way all the way through the field, our biggest mover overall, running that fixed setup. I mean, that had to actually feel pretty good as the temperature and the track changed. What were some of the things that you were thinking about and focused on as you drove through the field?
Well, first of the race, starting in the back was just, don't get into trouble. So I rode around back there for a while. After 10 or 15 laps, got pretty comfortable and started driving through the field. But yeah, like Jeff said, this set, the first 5 laps or so, just wanted to over rotate on you, especially on corner exit and entry. So, just managing the track, managing the set, expecting what the car might try to do to you, and driving through the field.
Well, you made it look totally easy. So this 1.5 miles, kind of similar to the one that we're gonna see next week. Those could we possibly expect to see you have as good a performance next week as well as you did this?
I hope so. Yeah, Charlotte's one of my favorite tracks. It's narrow, but it's 1.5 miles. I really like it. So yeah, hopefully I'll have another good run next week.
Well, good luck to you. And before we let you go here, anybody you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, congrats to Jeff for the win, my teammate. That was an awesome run. He was so much better at saving tires than me, especially late in a run. He just took off. So it was great. We could finish 1-2 for Triad. Thanks to my sponsors, Caterpillar, Triad sponsors, Souza Media, Stand Analyzer. Without them, wouldn't be possible.
Well, once again, congratulations, and that is an awesome job laid down by that Triad team tonight. Good luck to you next week, and thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thanks, Al.
And with that, we're going to move on down to our third and final podium finisher of the night. Brandon Pasalacqua joins us up here in third place. Brandon, Mark Sanchez was really running you down there in the last 20 laps or so. You managed to kind of manage the gap, but were you ever nervous he was going to get to you?
Oh, yeah, I was super nervous. He caught me on the run before pretty easily after about 20, 25 laps on the tires, and I had to let him go. And he got to about a second lead in front of me. And then when we came down for that last pit stop, I was super aggressive, and we both came down pit road side by side. And I have to give a big shout out to Mark Sanchez because he let me go in front of him when we went to go pit with each other. And if I were him, I would have I would have stayed in the bottom lane and made me fall back. But I really appreciate him doing that. That's the only reason why I was in front of him for the rest of the race, and he would have been up here if he wasn't so generous about that. So huge shout out to Mark. But yeah, I was super nervous at the end there because I knew he had a lot more longer run pace than I did. So it worked out.
And, of course, we got Jeffrey's thoughts on what was going to be coming on up here for Charlotte Motor Speedway. Obviously, we just came away from the ISCA 600. Admittedly, not nearly as long, but what's your thoughts as we get set to return back to America's home for motorsports?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I actually just moved down here to Charlotte last year around this time, so I guess you can call it my home track now. So excited to put a good setup together, work with my teammates, and see what kind of run we have. Just the biggest thing a lot of time is qualifying relatively well, and then just keeping your car clean, and then just make sure you have a car there at the end to fight for a podium finish. So that's the goal. Super excited to see how to get to that race next week, and yeah, appreciate the opportunity to run tonight. And we had a fixed setup, and I was horrible the whole race, so I'm just appreciative that I was able to get the podium.
Well, hopefully we'll be back up on the podium next week as well at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Before I let you go, then here, Brandon, anybody you'd like to shout out for that number 23 Chevrolet?
Yeah, definitely. I have an ISCA on all around my car, so I appreciate Kenny and all the admins and everything they do to make this league successful. It's nice to be able to run in a league that's super clean and just generally fun to be in. So I appreciate them. I appreciate you guys in the booth. You guys do an excellent job every weekend. And then I got to give a shout out to my boys at G&G for allowing me to race with them and become a better driver and learn from them.
And thank you, Brandon, for taking the time to join us here tonight. Best of luck next week in Charlotte.
Awesome. Thanks, Nolan. Appreciate it.
And with that, that's going to be a wrap for us then here from the Applebee's All-Star Race for the Texas Motor Speedway. So from myself, Nolan Rempel, along with Alfonso Nixon and Rob Melton behind the cameras, thank you so much for tuning in for more ISCA ButtKicker Cup Series action. We'll see you next week for the 300-mile race in Charlotte.